What you just experienced was the most vulnerable I've ever been in front of an audience.
As we enter the astonishing world of Curtis Sneeden.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Before we start, I wonder, is there a veteran in the audience? Anybody here served in the armed services? I like to take an opportunity when I'm appearing in front of people to take a second to remember some of the brave men and women who have worked for our country in faraway places like Iraq and Afghanistan and the Korean Peninsula. And the reason I think it's important to remember them is because you're going to see some things today that hopefully seem magical. I mean, that's the idea, right? Ta-da! Magic! Well, all of this is really nothing compared to the courage and the sacrifice being shown by those brave men and women. So let's begin our time together by remembering them. I am Curtis. I am a mystery performer. I used to call myself a magician, but mystery performers make more money. So now I'm a mystery performer. And what that means to you is that it's my job to stand before you and perform what appear to be feats of wonder. I sense that some of you are clapping inside your minds. That's okay. That's okay. You should know it's not nearly as gratifying from my point of view, but fine. Follow your heart. Thank you. Meet me halfway on this mystery performer thing, okay? Magic is an ancient art. 5,000 years ago, if I'd been able to stand before you and just pull little red balls out of the air, I mean, people would have revered me as a god, right? I mean, at the very least, they would have probably offered to pay for my drinks, don't you think? Hi, Batiste, how are you? I didn't realize you'd be here. Nice to see you. Does this ever happen to you? You go to sleep at night, you wake up, there's a pool ball at the foot of your bed? Well, good. If you had said yes, that would have been a whole different kind of show. But if you were a magician, you'd have to get used to this sort of thing. I can assure you that once you've mastered your imagination and brought it under your control, the things you'll be able to do will blow your mind. Now, when I first started performing magic, I was anxious a lot because I worried about everything working out just right. You know, it was sort of like this. I'd say, all right, go ahead, pick. No, you need to pick a. Just pick a card. Is it four diamonds? Astonishing! Thank you. Hopefully, over time, you get a little smoother, right? But it's also true that the more you perform, the more opportunity there is for things to go wrong. Props break. Microphones die. I remember the time my beautiful little white dove busted out of her hidden secret place and flew out over the audience about 12 minutes before she was scheduled to appear. The audience thought she was beautiful. I fired her. Now she's just a really dull pet. Sometimes we take her out and set her in our Christmas tree to startle house guests, but she doesn't perform with me anymore. What I started to realize was that all of that anxiousness, all of that need to control my magic shows was actually getting in the way. It was preventing me and my audiences from just enjoying the experience together. Magic taught me that I needed to summon up the courage to loosen my grip a little bit. Now, I still try to plan every show very carefully, as you can tell from the elaborate and detailed early setup that you just witnessed. I try to think ahead still, and I check everything out ahead of time to make sure it's right. But I don't really worry that much about the little mishaps anymore, or about an audience member shouting out something off the wall. I mean, the unexpected happens. I don't dread that anymore. I just accept that as part of the experience. That is not a cue for you to give me any trouble, okay? Just conduct yourselves as the professionals you know yourselves to be. I want to tell you now about a magician who at a very young age was forced to give up control of something that he held dear. And in an unexpected way, it opened up the door to something that was even more astonishing. Now, this magician was a man from Argentina. His name was René Lavand. René Lavand is not all that well known in this country, but to those audiences around the world who've witnessed his performances, this man was a legend. Here's the thing. René Lavand only had one hand. He lost the other one in a car wreck when he was a kid. And yet, he could do more with one hand than most of us could do if we had three hands. Today, I want to share some of Lavand's magic with you. You'll be glad that he refused to listen when people told him that his dream of becoming a great magician was impossible. He would begin by dealing out the four aces and leaning them up against a wall or a curb, maybe. And then he would deal out 3 indifferent cards onto each ace. Now, that might be a word we don't use all that much in ordinary conversation, indifferent. All it means to us is that the identities of these cards doesn't make any difference to us. We don't really care which cards they are. The point is that each ace gets 4 of them. And remember, the great Lavand is doing all this dealing with one hand. 3 indifferent cards for each ace. And then he would take one of the aces, say the ace of spades, and its 3 indifferent cards, and he would set it off to the side somewhere, someplace where it was safely out of range, but in plain view the entire time. See that, can't you? Then the magic would begin. He'd take that first ace. In our case, it's the ace of clubs. He would mix it in with the other 3 indifferent cards. And then he would very slowly show you those 3 indifferent cards. And to your astonishment, that first ace, the ace of clubs, seemed to just vanish before your eyes. Thank you. Move on to the next ace. In our case, it's the ace of diamonds. He'd mix it in again, and then he would very slowly show you those 3 indifferent cards. And once again, to your utter astonishment, that second ace, the ace of diamonds, seemed to just evaporate into thin air. Well, he knows you're watching very closely now. So he'd move even more slowly than before. He would say, "No puedo hacer más despacio." I can't do this any more slowly. Did I get that right? Is anybody bilingual? Did I get that right? Close enough. And then just to prove that he was being fair, he would very slowly count out 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. And none of them was an ace. As astonishing as that all seemed, your jaw would drop open when you saw that the ace of spades, which remember, had been across the room the entire time, had now been joined by the other 3 aces. That's the name. We like to imagine that we are in command of our lives, don't we? And that's true in a trivial kind of sense. I mean, you get to choose whether you order a latte or macchiato. But if you've ever had something big and unexpected happen in your life, then you know that most of that control you thought you had is really just an illusion. The script you're reading from for your life's show can be swiped out of your hands at any moment. Magic has taught me that that can be okay. Actually, there's really no other way to really connect with another person. I mean, you really can't connect with an audience or your clients or your teammates if you insist upon being in complete control all the time. I mean, I probably could try to stand here and hold you spellbound with things like playing cards that I'm in control of. You're clapping inside your mind. I think we can both tell that we're not really going to create an experience here that either of us thinks is worth remembering unless I relinquish some of that control and take a risk by coming out to meet you. What's your name?
I'm Lori.
How do you do, Lori? Pleasure to meet you. I'm Curtis. I'm the magician, in case that wasn't clear. Thank you very much. Oh, you have it. That's okay. I want you, Lori, to think of a person in your life who you haven't thought of in a long time. It could be a childhood friend. It could be a relative you haven't thought of in years. Have you got somebody in mind? Okay, take this piece of paper, please, and write their name on that piece of paper, and then fold the piece of paper up. Now, the reason I'm asking Lori to write that name down is because I want it to become fixed firmly in her mind. And I also don't want her to try to change her mind later to make me look silly. You, sir. We met earlier. Thank you for helping with my camera. When you were growing up, did you have pets around the house?
Yes.
Did you have a favorite pet?
I had a dog.
Okay. Would you think of that animal now and write its name on that piece of paper and then fold it back? How are we doing, Lori? Okay. Would you hold that paper up to the light in the folded condition and confirm for us that we can't see the handwriting in there, can we? That's important. Okay. I don't want to touch that, so would you shove that down in the envelope? Good. Now, would you please stick your tongue out? She did it! Normally people don't. They just recoil when I ask them. The point is you need to seal the envelope. Yeah, don't lick it. It's got some gummy stuff on it. And would you mind coming up here? Usually people get really grossed out. But now I need a third person who is maybe a little more artistic. Is anybody here willing to admit that you just got selected by your team? We're going to try something a little bit different with you. I want you to think of an object. It could be any object in the world. It could be something we might have seen in your room when you were a kid, or something we would find at your desk now. Anything at all. Have you got something in mind?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a piece of paper, and you're going to sketch that object out on here, okay? Just like that. And then you're going to fold it up, just like the others have. And you're going to seal it in your envelope. You think you can handle the instructions? Now, I need the... I need a final person who's probably the most honest face in the room. Yeah. How about you, sir? Oh, is there a story? Did you be there last night to get this? You mean you're not the most honest person in the room? Okay. Now I have to worry about minor mishaps again. You're going to play our sheriff, so to speak. What is your name? Andy. This is Andy. I think the crowd knows you, Andy. You're going to be Sheriff Andy. And your job is to pick up each of those envelopes, make sure they're sealed, and then wait for me right over there. Do you understand your task? No, you're my first contestant.
Oh.
So, Lori, you are thinking of the name. Please focus on that name. Imagine that name is emblazoned on a big screen hanging out here over the audience. Can you see that? It's in big letters. Lori, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to ask you some questions.
Okay.
You ignore me. Focus on that name.
Okay.
But I think you'll be astonished to find that even though we aren't communicating verbally, you're actually giving off hundreds of very subtle clues as to what might be going on inside your mind. And to those who have learned how to read those clues, the results can seem almost telepathic. You understand? Okay. It would be helpful though. We're talking about a man.
A man.
Okay. Ignore me. You focus on the
Okay,
name. You're not
don't
supposed to answer
facilitate.
any questions. You focus on the name. We'll start with some letters of the alphabet. We'll start with B. B, C. B, C, D. Okay.
Okay, I have to ask a question.
You don't get to ask me.
When you say B, C, D, am I supposed to say yes, no?
You're supposed to ignore
Just
me.
ignore you. Okay.
Consistent with the fact that I said ignore me 5 times.
I got it.
I'm looking for the subtle clues. Those were what were called gross clues.
Did I cut it out?
You might have. No, but I think I picked up on a
Okay.
little something. B, C, D, E. E, G. You know, you might not have thought about it, but there are actually a lot of letters in the alphabet that end with an E sound. P, T, V. Okay, let's try the vowels. Let's try A. A, E, I. A, E, I, O. Okay. I'm seeing something there. Although I'm not sure. Ah, and, in, O.
I have to look at you.
Focus, Morris. You know, there's a big batch of, let's get the soundtrack. There's a big batch of letters right in the middle of the alphabet that we often pronounce as though it's like one sound. We say L-M-O-P, right? L-M-O-P, L-M-N-O-P, L-M-N-O-K. Okay. Now I think I'm not 100% sure about all of this. But I think we're in the neighborhood. And this is what I was driving at before. You can't be sure with this type of magic to nail it right on the head. But I think we're probably close. Would you hold it? Okay, you're done again. Against your heart. Don't get it just yet. Sheriff Andy, save me here. Hand me this. Good. Okay. So, Lord, when we asked you to think of someone from far back in your life, you thought of Grandma, is that Dunham? Okay, okay. So is she still with us? Is that your grandma? Okay, she's still with us. I'm sure she is in a sense.
Yes.
We were close. Would you please take a look at what you were communicating to me?
Wow.
Very close. Hey, you said your name was Jose. That's right. Jose, come on up and join us. You know the rules. You are focused on a pet. Your favorite pet from childhood. Envision that pet's name emblazoned on a big movie screen out there. Stand any way you want. But you are supposed to ignore me. Just try to focus on that name. It's helpful though to know, is it a cat or a dog? Okay, you're supposed to ignore me. You focus on the name. Okay? And it's helpful to know it's a dog. Down, I get it. B. B, C, D. B, C, D, E. P, T. A, E, I, O, U. Ah, E, I, O, U. Actually, you're not giving much up. L-M-N-O-P, L-M-N-O-P-Q, L-M-N-O-P-Q. Okay. I'm a little confused here. I'll say, what is a man if the chief good and measure of his time, good and measure of his time, measure of his time, there we go. I think I've got that right. The Shakespeare helped, actually. I think it loosened it up a little bit. We're close. I don't think, if that's a pet's name, I don't think I recognize that pet name. Hold that against your heart. Would you hand me the second envelope, please? Thank you, Sheriff Andy. My sense would be that you're behaving yourself better now than you did last night, or at lunch, or wherever this legend arose. So, we asked you to think of a pet's name, and you thought of, I don't quite recognize it, Pat. Is that Pitofu? Pitufo. You got had a dog named Pitufo, too? No, I'm sure. What kind of dog was it?
Just a mic.
I'm sure it was a lovely mutt. We were close. Why don't you take a look at what I felt like you were communicating to me and show them. Now, Sheriff Andy, we're going to shift gears a little bit here, and actually I'm not even going to need this. Would you please take your seat? Give it up for Sheriff Andy. For the integrity of the proceedings. I want to tell you now about a type of magician that understood this risk-taking thing better than most. They were very popular in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and they went around the country putting on shows in which they claimed to be able to see visions of future events, of objects that lie just beyond the range of the five ordinary senses. They called themselves spiritualists, and they referred to that strange gift as second sight. Now, the spiritualists were magicians, but they didn't sell themselves that way. They knew they were tapping into something much deeper on their audience's part. And today I'd like to give you a sense of what you might have experienced if you'd witnessed a spiritualist exhibition. What is your name?
Michelle.
This is Michelle, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Give her a big round of applause. Michelle, we're going to try this a little bit differently. I'm going to hand you a pad of paper and a magic marker. Don't snip that too much. You'll get dizzy in a very pleasant way. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to sketch that object that you're thinking about. You need to first be concentrating on the object. Form a vivid mental image of it.
Okay.
So vivid, in fact, you feel like you could almost reach out and touch it out there. Now, when I say go, I want you to try to sketch that object, but make it big this time so that when you show us, they'll be able to see.
Okay.
Do you understand? Michelle, would you take a few steps back so that I can't possibly see you? And I'll come over here. Make sure that you hold your pad up so that I can't see what you're drawing. Turn and face me so I can't see. There you go. Do you understand your instructions?
I'm just supposed to draw what I drew on the little piece of paper, right?
Yeah, but make it big this time.
Yes.
My job is to try to share this vision with you
Okay.
and achieve something like second sight.
Okay, so I'm
There you
ready to
go.
go.
Okay. Can you imagine a world in which we really could share each other's thoughts this way? I mean, think of all the misunderstandings that didn't have to happen, all the suffering that could have been avoided. Are you done, Michelle?
Simple.
Yeah, it was kind of simple, wasn't it?
Yes.
It doesn't say anything about you up here. Suggests that you have a clean conscience.
Yes.
I'll take the magic marker. Would you close that, please? Thank you. And let's come to center stage here. Hold that against your heart so we can't see. You could have thought of any object. So let's think about that for a second. If, let's suppose you thought of, say, a baseball bat. And if I drew like a straight line or a long oval, that would be a coincidence, right? But that wouldn't really prove very much, would it?
Okay.
You weren't thinking of a baseball bat.
No.
Would you show us what you were thinking
It's more circular.
of? Okay.
Judge my circle.
Is that a crystal ball? It's like it's a ball? Is that like a glass ball and it's got a little stand?
Yeah.
You had a crystal ball in your room when you were a kid?
No, it's on my desk.
I'm even worse. Yeah, you do the show next year. You have a crystal ball. Michelle, there can be no doubt that we have experienced second sight. Well, our risk certainly paid off that time. I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. If you have enjoyed what you liked, I'd love it if you reached out to me. I understand you're not all from Topeka. It would be my delight to come to your community and share some of this magic with the meaning with some of the organizations that you're part of. Mike knows how to find me, so let's talk. I would enjoy that greatly. There's probably something that I should tell you. This lesson about giving up control, I didn't really learn that from magic. I validate it every time I perform magic. But actually, I learned this lesson about 20 years ago when the doctor walked into our delivery room and handed me our third child, and he whispered, "This one's special." That was a magical moment. Whether my wife and I knew it at the time or not. You see, magic is the art of transformation. And to us, at that moment, everything changed. Now, I'm not here to talk about kids with special needs or my daughter. You know what? If she wants to get rich and famous, let her go do her own TED Talk, okay? The idea that I think is worth sharing is that even though I had no input into the question of whether I would become the father of a child with a disability, there was something I could control: my response. And yes, I played around with self-pity and bitterness and disillusionment. But I didn't stay there very long because those places are lonely and frankly the wallpaper is really drab. Now, I want to be crystal clear about something with you. None of those emotions ever had anything to do with the little person who had come into our lives. I mean, how could I possibly be bitter about her? I wasn't. But I was dizzy and confused because I had just been slapped in the face by the reality that I wasn't nearly as in control of my life as I thought I was. The script that I thought I was writing and reading from had just been ripped from my hands. Well, in retrospect, I realized that that old script had some pretty harsh stage directions in it. Things like no hugging, people smell funny. Don't make eye contact. You don't know him, he might try to talk to you. Or raise 3 children, pursue your career goals, and regret the rest of your life that you didn't spend more time with them. I mean, I don't read from that script anymore. Because another thought occurred to me, and it pierced right through me. That's how I know it didn't come from my mind. It came from somewhere else. I hadn't really lost control of anything. How could I? I never had it in the first place. And that old script, I hadn't been robbed of my life script. I'd been set free from it. Life is going to defy our expectations. Magic shows are going to fail. That's not really an important question, it's a given. The question is, how are we going to choose to answer? Do we blame the audience for distracting us? Do we whimper and sneak off the stage? No way. No way. Catch. It's choice time. You get to choose. Red or black.
Red.
Do you wish to change your mind?
No.
Throw the stuffed animal to one of those guys. When you pick it up, you're okay. You get to choose diamonds or hearts.
Diamonds.
Do you want to change your mind?
No.
Throw it over there. Thank you. Good. Pseudo catch. You get to choose numbers or faces.
Numbers.
Do you want to change your mind?
No.
Okay. Why don't you chuck that up here somewhere? Maybe this lady can catch it. Oh, yeah. You almost put her eye out. So you chose numbers. You get to choose any number between ace and 10.
10.
You want to choose 10. Would you like to stay with that number?
Yes.
Okay. Surely we can agree that given the incredibly democratic process we just went through, there is no conceivable way I could have known we'd be talking right now about the 10 of diamonds, right? Thank you for agreeing with me. This is so much more work if you argue at that point. The 10 of diamonds. We couldn't have known. And yet, that deck of cards has been hanging over there since before we started. And nobody's touched it. There is something special about this deck of cards, aside from the fact that it's huge. What's special about it is that there's one card in there that's turned around the other way from all the others. Now, I don't know which card it is. Okay, before I came in, I took one out and turned it around and shoved it back in. So that's not really the point. This isn't about me. This is about you and us. And how we respond to a world of uncertainty and change and so many things that are beyond our control. Do we curse our fate and withdraw inside ourselves, or do we maybe allow our hearts to be broken just a little bit so that they can open up and let us live and forgive and love in ways we probably wouldn't have understood before? Well, I've made my choice, and it's been amazing.